Good evening and welcome to MP Live Lessons. So tonight we are doing all of Biology Paper 2 and we are starting with Combined Science Topic 5, Homeostasis and Response. Now, the major focus in this exam would be the hormones in the human body. So first, we're going to look at how hormones work in the first place. Now, you may notice here that the nervous system is mentioned, and yes, even though the nervous system may not be on your exam, we need to compare it. So, can someone tell me how hormones actually work? Right.
I'll
So,
leave Diego to answer this question.
okay. So, hormones work off chemicals, and you'll need to remember this. So, these chemicals will be carried in the blood, in the plasma, whereas, let's say, the nervous system, how does the nervous system work off?
Nerves.
Okay, nerves, what are inside the nerves? They're not chemicals. Neurons. Okay, so these neurons will carry electrical impulses.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me how long, for example, if you touch a very hot object, that will go by your nervous system, so how long will it take for you to, let's say, pull your hand away?
Very fast.
Right, so very fast.
Liam, we're learning. Shush.
Am I late for my lesson? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Shush.
bro. Unacceptable.
Guys, no swearing, no swearing, no swearing.
No swearing. The master said no swearing.
I'm recording this.
Sorry, Matthew, sorry.
Carry on, Matthew.
Wow.
Okay, so considering where we were, so we know that the effect of on the nervous system is like instant. So as soon as we touch a hot object, we'll pull our hand away. So let's say with hormones, how long does it take for something to have an effect? Like if we're hungry, does it take long? Is it take long or short?
Takes quite a bit.
Yeah, so it takes longer to affect. So I'm assuming you all know what adrenaline is.
Yes.
So is adrenaline from the nervous system, like your electrical impulses, or is it a hormone?
Hormone.
Good, hormone. So the thing is, with adrenaline, it does take like a very short time to take effect. For example, it could be immediately pumped.
Where are you?
I'm currently jumping off Wally Bridge. What are you doing?
I think I just saw
Whoa.
you. I'm literally on Wally Bridge.
Stop interrupting the lesson.
Excuse me, guys. Master Martin trying to learn.
Kieran! Kieran, I need to talk to you, lad.
I don't.
What are you doing
what?
today?
I'm doing.
Kieran, what are you
I'm on
doing?
a live lesson.
Oh
I'm on a live
dear.
lesson.
Nick.
Sure.
Oh, no.
Nick.
I'm trying to learn.
Oh, sorry for my bad language. Yeah, I'm just about to jump off Wally Bridge. I'll see you later.
All right.
bit.
See ya.
Oh, very
Bye,
cool.
love you, bye.
Nervous system like has very short effects. For example, as soon as we touch a hot object, we immediately pull away, whereas hormones, it takes a longer time to kick in. So with adrenaline, the problem is it's very short, like for it to take effect. For example, we can get excited very quickly, but even still, we can still feel a little dizzy afterwards. So with hormones, the effect is also longer, but with the nervous system, it's shorter. So it's just done for a small amount of time, and that's it. So an example of these hormones could be for controlling glucose. So what is glucose used for in the body?
Respiration.
Good, so respiration.
Kieran.
Okay, respiration. Why do we need to do respiration?
So we can breathe.
Okay. Did you just say breathe?
No, I mean respire.
Right, okay, so just get energy. So, as we can see, right, so if we have too much glucose in our blood, we can see that water flows out. In the long term, yes, but if you have way too much glucose, water will flow out your cells, and that's because of osmosis. So, can someone tell me what osmosis is?
Osmosis is the movement of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane from a high concentration to a low concentration.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So,
You're clever.
what you can notice is with diabetic people, let's say maybe
Mhm.
if the blood glucose level gets too high, they can end up feeling dizzy because all that water is coming out of the cells, especially those in the brain. But
You got diabetes.
yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Right. If we don't have enough glucose instead, it's not that water will go into the cells, but rather because we just won't have enough energy from respiration because there's less glucose and glucose is needed for respiration.
Then you die. Yeah.
Yeah, if you just have none at all. So we see why it's important to keep glucose at a normal level, not too low, not too high. So if your glucose level is too high, can someone tell me what happens? What's the hormone that gets released when there's too much glucose?
Like
Insulin.
glycogen. Glycogen.
Oh, I
Is it?
don't know then. Sorry.
Right, Kieran, you're correct. It's insulin.
Oh,
yeah, you're
sure.
Now, Kieran,
I'm
so
clever.
since you know that insulin is released, where is it released from?
Pancreas.
Good.
Okay.
Think.
Yay.
So if there's too much, insulin is released.
Yes.
Now, as a result, what does this insulin do?
Doesn't it carry? What's it called? I forgot. Oh. It carries something to the cells, doesn't it?
Doesn't insulin like release the energy, like the sugar? Isn't it part of
Um,
that?
Wait, Chloe, where are you?
Not
This
exactly.
Outside.
has gone by.
Now, so what the insulin does is, since there's too much glucose, it wants to lower that concentration. So what the insulin does is, it gets glucose to move into the cells, or more importantly, move into the liver. So, um, so if too high,
How long
glucose.
is this lesson?
Stop
Is it
complaining,
an hour?
Kieran.
No, is it an
I'm going,
hour?
I'm going bowling tomorrow.
Not sure, but well, we have lots of time. Glucose absorbs into liver.
But Nick, I'm getting Destiny 2 tonight, so I can
Oh, I
play.
thought.
Damn, I'm literally booting it up right now.
I'm playing Valorant right now.
Well, that's tight.
What?
No, I'm still listening.
Yeah, same. I'm
Oh,
answering the
man, you're like,
questions.
oh, no.
Hey, yo. Carry on, Matthew. Matthew.
Right, so since the glucose is absorbed into the liver, can someone tell me what it's now stored as?
Fat.
Glycogen.
It's stored as fat.
Oh,
Fat, maybe. Maybe.
glycogen.
Good, glycogen.
Yeah.
That's what you are, Matthew.
No
Now-
swearing, bruv.
My bad. Shut up, Nick.
Ah.
Whoa.
I do not appreciate those kind of sounds. It makes
No,
my
I got
fun.
beaten in Valorant, sure.
Now,
Wait, can everyone hear me pouring a drink?
Yes.
Oh.
Big drink. Carry on, Matthew.
Glass of water. Relax. Matthew, you should just mute all of us, like, until like, you need us to talk.
Yeah, but I'm answering the questions, though.
okay,
It's,
this is just like a first test anyway. So now that we've got all that glucose converted into glycogen, which will be used later, which I'll mention later anyway. So now we got the glucose levels back to normal. So what happens instead if there's not enough glucose? What does the pancreas do this time?
It produces something.
Okay.
It's a hormone.
No
Produces a
shit.
hormone.
Okay, what's the name of the hormone? What's the name of the hormone then?
the
It's
one
in my
that goes on
biology
the
book.
You
It's
don't
upstairs,
care.
though.
I think this is for like higher tier only, just this
Yeah,
bit
Kieran, not
here.
you.
Shut up.
Well, Kieran, you are in my class, and we're not higher,
That's
so it doesn't really
material.
matter.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Have you guys seen my profile picture?
Yeah,
Yeah,
very nice.
Right. So
pretty sexy.
instead of
Yeah,
insulin, this time we have a new hormone which is called glucagon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As opposed to glucose.
Sure.
I need to edit this.
No, we're waiting for you to
Oh
talk.
my god, I've just got 7 Robux on Roblox. No way.
Great. Anyway, so the way you can remember this is for glucagon. So there's all the glucose is gone from the blood, or there's not enough. Okay. So what this glucagon does now is, so do you remember this glycogen that you had in the liver?
Yes.
So when this glucagon is absorbed into the liver or muscle cells, what this does to the glycogen is it converts it back to glucose. So it kind of breaks it up again and it gets released into the blood so your glucose levels are okay again. So glucagon causes glycogen to turn back or break down into glucose. So then glucose levels are back to normal.
Yeah.
So that's how all your glucose is controlled in the body. And just remember this middle bit here, which I'll highlight. All this mainly happens in either in the liver or muscle cells. And it's probably an advantage for muscle cells because let's say you're running an endurance race, you want to have that glycogen to be released back into glucose and it doesn't need to travel far, so it can be used immediately. So that's why many of these athletes will have starchy meals before they start have a race. So all that starch in or glucose will just be used over time slowly.
Yeah.
Now, as you guessed, we will be doing diabetes as well. So what
Yes.
is diabetes?
It's where you can't produce enough insulin for your body.
Well, that's one type. So diabetes is where you
What?
don't mention other people right now,
Oh, I
okay?
just take a question.
Right, so
Sorry, Sophie,
diabetes is where you cannot control your glucose level. So if it's too high, you can't control it. If it's too low, you really can't control it or bring it back to normal. So there are two types. So type 1
That too. Eh,
is where you don't produce insulin at all.
Yeah.
Isn't type 2 like where you produce it but it doesn't work very well?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I've got both.
Is type 1 where it's too low?
Here's type 2.
Matthew, do we learn sexual reproduction in this?
Yeah, this is in a different topic though.
So we're doing it after this?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ooh.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby.
Now, generally, if you do have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, how would you take action against it? How would you try not to get your glucose levels like too high, especially?
Good diet.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
don't eat too much sugary food, is it?
Work
Too much
out.
sugary
Unlike
foods.
Nick.
Yeah, it's not too many sugary or starchy foods, so actions
I'll talk
against.
then.
So you need a controlled diet.
Mm-hmm.
If it's for type 1, what do you see people usually with type 1 diabetes have?
pump
Uh,
insulin.
Insulin. So yeah. So how would they get the insulin?
They
by
buy
a
it.
pen, isn't it?
Yeah. So by pens, injections, whatever. So in
Did you just say you buy it?
Yeah, you buy it, don't you?
in America,
Unless
yes, they do.
Free.
Yeah, because
but
here you have the NHS, but in America they don't, unfortunately. So for type
Mm.
2, well,
Bit the
you just have to have that controlled diet again and exercise. Now you
yes.
might need to think how these two diseases can be caused.
Mhm.
For both,
Excess glucose.
you for type 2, well, yeah,
Type 1
because
is
if
Guineas.
yeah, so for type 2,
Aren't you born with one?
you can be born with either of them. Where mainly type
Oh,
1 is well more common, whereas type 2 it can be caused by like environmental issues. So
And like by eating too much sugary food, isn't it?
carbon
correct,
monoxide in the atmosphere.
maybe not. So but if you
Oh.
so let's say if you're constantly having too much glucose in your blood, like constantly having sugary treats, starchy foods, or too much of it in general, or even having let's say one big meal in a day,
Mm-hmm.
you'll have to constantly produce insulin, and that point that's some point is going to fail, and that's why you get this type 2 diabetes.
So with my diet, do I get type 2 diabetes?
Well, that's if
Not
you
if you
constantly
have
have
too
it too high, but I think with you
I eat
exercising it can balance
I
it
eat
out.
I eat 2 packs a day.
That is very healthy.
I know. But I
Well,
work
now
out
you
though,
know.
so that might counteract it.
I highly doubt it.
I don't see you working out, Nick.
Oh,
Yeah, you see me complaining though.
Emotional
Rude.
damage, right?
that's what Nick has. Joking.
Sure, lad,
joking.
I'll do you,
I do
sister.
as well.
Now just checking the notes, what we have done
That's too
now.
far.
Okay, that's the first topic done.
Now we're doing sexual
Hey.
reduction. Hey.
So I'll
Did
stop
I just
recording this
click the button?
session.
Oh, no, that's just promise up.